That's the question hanging over the Montreal Canadiens right now, like storm clouds over the St. Lawrence River. Here's a franchise that's done everything right, rebuilt with precision, drafted brilliantly, accelerated their timeline ahead of schedule, and yet they're stuck wrestling with one of hockey's most maddening riddles. What do you do with a supremely gifted player who just doesn't fit? We're talking about Patrik Laine, the sniper, the goal scorer, the tantalizing what if that's haunted general managers across this league. And now, as Montreal stands at the threshold of genuine contention, a bold proposal has emerged that could either be the shrewdest move Kent Hughes makes this season or the one that gets away. Let's establish something crucial right from the jump. The Montreal Canadiens are no longer a rebuilding team hoping to compete someday. They're competing now. What was supposed to be a methodical 3-year reconstruction has morphed into something far more exciting. Kent Hughes didn't just accumulate draft picks, he weaponized them. Those selections have blossomed into a young core that's electric, dynamic, and ahead of schedule. Last season's playoff appearance wasn't a fluke or a Cinderella story. It was a declaration, we've arrived. But Hughes isn't satisfied with just arriving. He's been relentlessly aggressive in surrounding that young core with complementary pieces, always hunting for that perfect chemistry, that ideal balance between youth and experience, skill and grit. It's been masterful roster construction, the kind that makes other GMs envious. Which brings us to last summer's most intriguing and controversial acquisition, Patrik Laine. When Montreal acquired the disgruntled Finnish sniper from Columbus, the hockey world collectively raised an eyebrow. Here's a player with one of the purest shots in the NHL, a power play specialist who could change games with a single release. A former second overall pick whose ceiling touched the stratosphere. But here's the thing about ceilings. They don't matter if you're spending most of your time on the floor. Laine's career has been a bewildering roller coaster of brilliance and frustration. Dazzling peaks followed by perplexing valleys. A player who's bounced between organizations, never quite finding that perfect home where his immense talent could consistently shine without the accompanying shadows of inconsistency. And now, just months into his Montreal tenure, that familiar pattern is emerging again. The warning signs are flashing red. Enter Caleb Kerna of Heavy Sports, who's just dropped a trade proposal that's got the hockey world buzzing. Send Laine back to Columbus in a straight one-for-one swap for 24-year-old forward Yegor Chinakhov. On the surface, it seems almost too simple. But dig deeper, and you'll find a proposal that addresses fundamental questions about identity, system fit, and the ruthless pragmatism required to build a championship contender. Let's talk about what Montreal would be getting in this deal, because Yegor Chinakhov represents something the Canadiens desperately value: reliability. At 6 feet 1 inch and 203 pounds, the 24-year-old possesses an NHL-ready frame. He was Columbus's first-round pick in 2020, 21st overall, and last season he posted 15 points in 30 games while showcasing exactly the kind of two-way commitment that makes Martin St. Louis's eyes light up. Here's what matters in St. Louis's system. You don't get ice time based on potential or pedigree. You earn it through relentless work ethic, defensive accountability, and a willingness to battle in all three zones. It's non-negotiable, and Chinakhov embodies precisely that philosophy. He's not going to wow you with highlight reel dangles or score 40 goals, but he'll give you consistent, responsible hockey. He'll kill penalties. He'll win board battles. He'll be in the right position defensively while still contributing offensively. He's the kind of player who makes everyone around him better, the glue that holds a middle six forward group together. For a team built on speed, skill, and a complete 200-foot game, Chinakhov fits like a perfectly tailored suit. But there's another massive benefit to this trade that can't be overlooked: financial flexibility. Laine's carrying an $8.7 million cap hit this season, the final year of the 4-year, $34.8 million extension he signed with Columbus back in 2022. That's a substantial chunk of salary cap real estate for a player who's currently skating on the fourth line. Moving that contract would give Hughes significant breathing room to make deadline moves, extend emerging stars, or simply maintain flexibility for future opportunities. It's a move that prioritizes system fit and financial prudence over tantalizing but unrealized potential. And in today's cap-constrained NHL, that's not just smart, it's essential. Now, you might be thinking, why would Columbus want Laine back? Didn't they just get rid of him? Fair question. But context matters. Sometimes a player needs a change of scenery. Sometimes that change doesn't work. And sometimes, just sometimes, a return to familiar surroundings can reignite the spark. Columbus knows Laine. They drafted him. They've seen his best hockey. They understand what he can be when everything clicks. The Blue Jackets are still deep in their rebuild, accumulating assets and developing their young core. If Laine can rediscover even a fraction of his elite goal-scoring touch, he becomes either a valuable offensive weapon for their future, or, perhaps more likely, a trade chip at the deadline for a team desperate for scoring. It's a calculated gamble, sure, but it's a gamble on raw, undeniable talent. And in a rebuilding phase, those are exactly the kinds of risks you can afford to take. The timing of this trade proposal couldn't be more telling, especially considering Laine's season-opening performance in Toronto. Wednesday night against the Maple Leafs should have been Laine's opportunity to make a statement, to silence the doubters, to show Montreal exactly what they acquired. Instead, it was a microcosm of everything that's gone wrong. He was relegated to the fourth line. He logged the second lowest ice time among all Canadiens forwards. He finished with a -2 rating, took an ill-timed first-period hooking penalty, and managed just one shot on goal. One shot on goal. For a player whose entire value proposition is built around his lethal shooting ability, that's not just disappointing, it's alarming. Martin St. Louis is facing increasingly difficult lineup decisions with the depth Montreal now possesses. And when you're a high-priced defensive specialist who can't crack the top 9, who's struggling defensively, and who's in the final year of your contract, the writing isn't just on the wall, it's in neon lights. This is a player playing for his next contract. Every shift matters. Every shot counts. And a limited fourth-line role coupled with a poor opening night is hardly the audition he needs. Here's the fundamental issue at the heart of this entire situation. Patrik Laine doesn't fit what Montreal is building. The Canadiens under St. Louis have cultivated a specific identity, blistering speed, relentless effort, defensive accountability, and a collective commitment to team-first hockey. It's a system that rewards players who buy in completely, who sacrifice individual glory for collective success. Laine is a pure scorer, a specialist, a player whose game is built around finding soft ice, getting a shot off, and lighting the lamp. There's nothing wrong with that. When it works, it's spectacular. But it requires the entire system to accommodate that style. It requires line mates who can retrieve pucks, create space, and feed him in his sweet spots. Montreal isn't built that way anymore. They're not going to construct their system around one player's strengths, especially when that player hasn't consistently delivered on his potential. The question isn't whether Laine is talented. He absolutely is. The question is whether that talent can flourish within Montreal's identity, and increasingly the answer appears to be no. So here we stand at a crossroads. Kent Hughes has built something special in Montreal, something that's ahead of schedule and brimming with potential. But potential only matters if you maximize it, if you make the tough decisions that prioritize the collective over the individual. Trading Patrik Laine for Yegor Chinakhov isn't flashy. It won't generate highlight reels or sell jerseys. But it might be exactly the kind of smart, pragmatic move that separates good teams from great ones. It's about recognizing that sometimes the most talented player isn't the right player. It's about understanding that system fit matters more than raw skill. It's about having the courage to admit when an acquisition hasn't worked out and moving decisively to correct course. The hockey world will be watching to see if Hughes pulls the trigger. Because this isn't just about two players swapping jerseys, it's about defining what the Montreal Canadiens are going to be moving forward. So, where do you stand on this? Should Montreal cut bait with Laine now, prioritize system fit and cap flexibility, and bring in a player who embodies their identity? Or does the Finnish sniper deserve more time, more opportunity, more patience to finally unlock that elite potential we all know exists somewhere inside? I genuinely want to know what you think, because this is one of those decisions that could define a franchise's trajectory. Drop your take in the comments, and don't hold back. Are you Team Chinakhov or Team Laine? Let's debate this properly. And if this breakdown gave you a new perspective on this situation, show some love with a like and subscribe for more in-depth hockey analysis that goes beyond the surface-level takes. This is where we dig into the real stories shaping the NHL. What's your gut feeling on this trade? Does Montreal need to act now, or give Laine more runway?